Welcome to Podcast Summaries, where every week we break down powerful ideas from 8 to 10 top podcasts to help you grow, heal, and thrive while saving time. If you find this summary helpful, please subscribe and check out links for more content. Your support keeps this journey going. Here is summarized version of World Expert on Fatherhood Love, They're Lying About Monogamy, What Cheating Does to Your Brain, featuring Dr. Machin by Steven Bartlett. Dr. Machin responds that we've done studies on it, and she's committed her life to understanding the neuroscience of love. She explains that when we look for a partner, we don't know we're doing it, and it involves two distinct areas of the brain, the unconscious stage and the conscious stage. The unconscious stage is where we take in sensory information about the other person, like their smell, which can indicate genetic compatibility. Dr. Machin shares that women can smell genetic compatibility in men, but men can't smell it in women. This is because the major histocompatibility complex, which underpins our immune system, also underpins our ability to smell. Women can smell how genetically close a male's MHC is to theirs, which helps them choose a partner with a diverse set of genes. Steven Bartlett asks how we know this, and Dr. Machin explains that they've tested it through various methods, including the famous t-shirt test. In this test, men wear a plain t-shirt for 24 hours without washing or using deodorant, and then women are asked to sniff the t-shirts and choose the one they find most attractive. The results show that women are attracted to the scent of men who are genetically furthest away from them. Dr. Machin also talks about the crucial role of fathers in child development and how our culture treats fathers is wrong. She explains that men have a very specific role in child development, and it's fundamental for a child to thrive and survive. She shares that she shifted studying fathers because she was angry that her husband was discarded after the birth of their child, and she wanted to understand why fathers were seen as surplus to requirement. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the state of love at the moment, and she responds that it's become more individualistic. Dr. Machin also talks about how women are realizing that romantic love isn't the only love in the box, and they're exploring other types of love. Dr. Machin explains that when we're younger we look for a partner for romantic love, but as we get older, our needs change. Women post-50 are looking for a different type of relationship, one that's based on companionship and shared experiences. Dr. Machin advises that men should be aware of this change and adapt to their partner's needs if they want to maintain a healthy relationship. Steven Bartlett wonders why men didn't evolve to be able to smell genetic compatibility like women, and Dr. Machin responds that it's probably because the cost to a woman of choosing a partner with a similar MHC is higher than the cost to a man. Women need to choose a partner with a diverse set of genes to ensure their child's survival, whereas men don't have the same pressure. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the differences in what men and women look for in a partner. Dr. Machin explains that men are drawn to a woman's waist-hip ratio, which is a subconscious indicator of fertility and health. This ratio is calculated by dividing the waist circumference by the hip circumference, and the ideal ratio is around 0.7. Dr. Machin notes that this ratio is not related to weight, but rather the proportion of the body. Dr. Machin shares that women, on the other hand, are drawn to a man's shoulder-waist ratio, which is an indicator of physical strength and health. The ideal ratio for men is around 1.6, which means that the top half of the body should be 1.6 times larger than the waist. Dr. Machin notes that this ratio is not just about physical appearance, but also about the qualities that are associated with it, such as success and protection. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the role of oxytocin and dopamine in attraction. Dr. Machin explains that oxytocin is released during physical touch and social bonding, and it helps to reduce fear and increase feelings of relaxation and trust. Dopamine, on the other hand, is released during pleasurable activities and is associated with motivation and reward. Dr. Machin notes that both oxytocin and dopamine are important for attraction and bonding, and that they work together to create a sense of pleasure and connection. Dr. Machin suggests that the ideal date would involve activities that release both oxytocin and dopamine, such as dancing or laughing together. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the worst thing someone could say on a date. Dr. Machin notes that saying something unkind or critical is a major turnoff, as it suggests a lack of empathy and kindness. She also notes that expressing values or beliefs that are incompatible with one's own can be a major red flag. She notes that this is often a result of the low cost and low investment of online dating, which can lead people to be overly picky and critical. Dr. Machin suggests that this approach can be counterproductive, as it can lead to a lack of appreciation and investment in the relationship. Dr. Machin notes that the paradox of choice is also a major factor in online dating, as people are often overwhelmed by the sheer number of options and struggle to make a decision. She suggests that this can lead to a lack of commitment and investment in the relationship, as people are always looking for something better. Steven Bartlett wonders if our brains are wired for monogamy, given the vast array of potential partners available to us today. Dr. Machin explains that our brains aren't set up for this kind of choice, citing the limited pool of potential partners in the past. With the rise of dating apps, our brains are overwhelmed by the sheer number of options, leading to difficulties in filtering and making choices. Dr. Machin uses the analogy of a restaurant menu to illustrate this point. In the past, we had limited options, but now we're faced with a vast array of choices, making it harder to decide. This is reflected in the dating world, where people may go on numerous dates without finding a suitable partner. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin to define monogamy and polyamory, and she explains that monogamy is a social construct, not a biological imperative. She notes that there are different types of monogamy, including sexual and social monogamy, and that humans are not naturally monogamous. In fact, studies have shown that only 0.002% of animals in the world are monogamous. Dr. Machin explains that monogamy was imposed as a form of control, particularly in the West, and that it's not a natural state for humans. She cites examples of cultures where polyamory is practiced, such as in certain tribes in South America and Africa, and notes that these cultures have evolved to accommodate multiple partners due to economic or social factors. Steven Bartlett asks if people in polyamorous relationships are happier than those in monogamous relationships, and Dr. Machin responds that satisfaction levels are roughly the same. However, she notes that polyamorous people often report feeling more truthful and authentic in their relationships, as they're not hiding their desires or feelings. Dr. Machin also discusses the challenges of polyamory, including jealousy and the need for open communication. She notes that polyamorous relationships require a high degree of emotional intelligence and communication skills, but that they can also be incredibly rewarding. Dr. Machin acknowledges that this is a common experience for polyamorous people, who often face stigma and prejudice. The conversation turns to the topic of fatherhood, and Dr. Machin emphasizes the importance of fathers in child development. She notes that fathers play a unique role in scaffolding a child's entry into the world beyond the family, and that this role is critical for a child's social and emotional development. Dr. Machin explains that fathers use a combination of nurture and challenge to help children develop confidence and resilience, and that this is different from the nurturing role of mothers. She notes that fathers are essential for teaching children social skills, emotional regulation, and inhibition, and that they play a critical role in shaping a child's behavior and academic success. Steven Bartlett asks how fathers achieve this, and Dr. Machin responds that it's partly chemical, citing the example of rough and tumble play. She notes that this type of play is a quick way for fathers to bond with their children and stimulate their development, and that it's a common behavior among Western fathers. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the differences in how men and women experience oxytocin release when interacting with their children. This difference is reflected in how children interact with their parents, with kids often gravitating towards their dads for fun and play, and towards their moms for comfort and nurturing. Dr. Machin shares that this difference is rooted in the way men and women have evolved to parent. She notes that men's brains have changed over time to prepare them for fatherhood, with hormonal changes such as a drop in testosterone and an increase in oxytocin and vasopressin. These changes help men to focus on their children and to develop a strong bond with them. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about how a man's body and brain change when he becomes a father. Dr. Machin explains that men undergo significant hormonal changes, including a drop in testosterone, which can be up to 30% lower than pre-fatherhood levels. This drop in testosterone helps men to focus on their children and to develop a strong bond with them. Dr. Machin notes that this change is not just physiological, but also psychological, with men becoming more empathetic and emotionally vulnerable after becoming fathers. Dr. Machin also discusses the implications of an absent father on a child's mental health. She notes that fathers play a critical role in underpinning resilience in children, particularly through rough and tumble play and other stimulatory activities. Without this input, children may be more likely to experience mental health issues such as social anxiety, eating disorders, and depression. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the implications of an absent mother and whether she has studied this topic. Dr. Machin notes that she has not studied mothers specifically, but that the roles of mothers and fathers have evolved to complement each other. Dr. Machin also notes that the human brain is highly adaptable, and that children can thrive with a single parent or with same-sex parents. Dr. Machin shares some fascinating research on the neural differences between mothers and fathers. She notes that when a heterosexual couple is shown a video of their child, the mother's brain shows a peak in activation in the ancient, unconscious part of the brain, while the father's brain shows a peak in activation in the social part of the brain. However, when a gay primary caretaking father is shown a video of their child, both parts of the brain light up at the same intensity, and a new neural connection is formed between the two areas. This research highlights the adaptability of the human brain, and the importance of both mothers and fathers in raising children. Steven Bartlett wonders if we need dads, given that research shows that a father's brain can adapt to take on a caretaking role, just like a mother's. Dr. Anna Machin explains that it's not about needing a biological father, but rather about having a father figure present in a child's life. She notes that in a heterosexual relationship, we get a complementarity of roles. But in a gay relationship, we don't have that same dynamic. However, she emphasizes that the brain's plasticity allows it to adapt to different situations, and that a father figure can be just as effective as a biological father. Dr. Machin stresses that the importance of a father figure is not just about biology, but about the role they play in a child's life. She also emphasizes that the changes in the brain that occur when a man becomes a father happen through interaction, not just biology. Steven Bartlett asks if there's anything better than a biological father, and Dr. Machin responds that a father figure can be just as effective. She notes that the data shows that daughters who grow up with a secure attachment to their father have better outcomes in terms of academics, career success, mental health, and relationship. Dr. Machin also discusses the importance of a father figure in a child's life, particularly in the first 2 years. She notes that human babies are born early and need a lot of care and attention, and that fathers play a critical role in this process. She argues that the idea that fathers are only important after 2 years is a misunderstanding of how the brain develops and how children grow. Steven Bartlett asks if it's fair to say that mothers are more important in the 0 to 2 phase, and Dr. Machin responds that mothers and fathers do different things and are both important in their own ways. Dr. Machin emphasizes that the primary caregiver is not the only important factor in a child's development, but rather the environment in which they grow up. She notes that babies take on board the dynamics between their parents and that the relationship between parents is critical in shaping a child's attachment style. Steven Bartlett asks for advice on how to configure his situation with his partner, given that they both work and will be having a baby soon. Dr. Machin responds that happy parents make happy babies, and that it's essential to do what works for each individual family. She notes that in an ideal world, fathers would have more time off to care for their babies, but that every family's circumstances are different. Steven Bartlett is curious about how new fathers can navigate the transition to parenthood, and Dr. Anna Machin shares her insights. She explains that the mother will likely need some time to recover and adjust to her new role, and that the father's role is crucial in supporting her during this period. Dr. Machin emphasizes that the father's bond with the baby develops through interaction, and that it's essential for him to be involved in caring for the baby as much as possible. Dr. Machin notes that the transition to parenthood can take up to 2 years for men, and that it's a psychological process of adjusting to a new identity. Dr. Machin also highlights the importance of building a bond with the baby through interaction, such as through activities like baby massage, which can help release bonding hormones. Steven Bartlett asks if the woman's bond with the baby is more hormonal, and Dr. Machin agrees, explaining that the mother's hormones are triggered by pregnancy, childbirth, and breastfeeding. In contrast, the father's bond develops through interaction and touch. Dr. Machin notes that the father's reaction to the baby is more conscious and recognition-based, whereas the mother's bond is more instinctual and hormonal. The conversation then turns to the topic of love drugs, and Dr. Machin explains that scientists are exploring the possibility of creating a pill or potion that can induce feelings of love and attachment. She discusses the potential of oxytocin and MDMA as love drugs, but notes that there are significant ethical concerns surrounding their use. Finally, Dr. Machin discusses attachment styles and their relationship to falling in love and holding on to love. She explains that attachment relationships are rare and emotionally intense, and that they have the power to change our psychology and brain architecture. Dr. Machin notes that attachment styles are shaped by our early experiences with caregivers, and that they can influence our relationships throughout our lives. Steven Bartlett wonders if attachment styles can exist on a spectrum, rather than being strictly categorized. Dr. Machin agrees, explaining that while scientists categorize attachment styles for data analysis and understanding, they do exist on a spectrum. She notes that people can exhibit traits from multiple categories, and that attachment styles can change over time. Dr. Machin also discusses how modern society may be breeding a certain type of attachment style, particularly avoidant behaviors. She attributes this to the fact that people are becoming less comfortable with intimacy, partly due to the lack of practice in close relationships. With the rise of technology, people can now do everything from their sofas, including work, socialize, and even maintain relationships. This has led to a decline in face-to-face interactions, making people more anxious about meeting up and forming close relationships. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin about the role of dopamine in attachment styles, particularly in the context of social media and other dopamine-releasing activities. Dr. Machin explains that while dopamine can provide a temporary reward, it's not enough to sustain meaningful relationships. She notes that people need a full cocktail of social chemicals, including oxytocin, vasopressin, and serotonin, to form and maintain healthy relationships. Dr. Machin also discusses how attachment styles can impact relationships, particularly in the context of neurodiversity. She notes that people with ADHD, autism, and other neurodiverse conditions may struggle with relationships due to differences in executive function, emotional regulation, and sensory processing. She also highlights the importance of empathy in relationships, noting that neurodiverse individuals may empathize differently, but not necessarily less. Steven Bartlett shares his personal experience with ADHD and how it affects his relationships. Dr. Machin explains that people with ADHD may struggle with impulsivity, leading them to jump into relationships quickly without considering the consequences. She also notes that neurodiverse individuals may mask their true selves to fit in with neurotypical society, leading to stress and burnout. Dr. Machin emphasizes the importance of understanding and accepting neurodiversity in relationships. She notes that neurodiverse individuals can form healthy and fulfilling relationships, but it may require more effort and understanding from both partners. By acknowledging and embracing their differences, couples can work together to build a stronger and more empathetic relationship. Steven Bartlett wonders if people with ADHD are more likely to cheat on their partners. Dr. Machin responds that while there is a study suggesting adults with ADHD are more likely to report infidelity, the effect size is not overwhelming, and she's wary of labeling neurodiverse people as the problem in a relationship. She emphasizes that all relationships involve interactions between two people, each bringing their own issues, and that it's essential to educate oneself about how the other person's brain works. Dr. Machin explains that people with ADHD are more likely to have short-term relationships due to boredom and impulsivity. They may also engage in risky sexual behavior. However, she notes that this doesn't necessarily mean they're more likely to cheat. This can make it challenging for people with ADHD to maintain long-term relationships. Steven Bartlett asks what someone with ADHD can do to overcome these challenges. Dr. Machin suggests that medication might be an option, but it's a personal decision. She also emphasizes the importance of educating oneself about how the neurodiverse brain works and finding a partner who is willing to understand and adapt. Dr. Machin highlights the significance of relationships in our overall health and well-being. She cites a study by Julie Holt-Lundstad, which found that relationships are the biggest factor in our health, longevity, and well-being. Dr. Machin stresses that we need to nurture our relationships and prioritize human connection in a world where digital communication is becoming increasingly prevalent. Dr. Machin discusses the concept of biobehavioral synchrony, which occurs when two people's physiological measures, such as heart rate and body temperature, synchronize. This phenomenon is unique to human relationships and is essential for building strong attachments. She shares that she's not good at celebrating her achievements and is always looking to the next challenge. When asked about what the moment will be in her future where she thinks she's made it, Dr. Machin smiles and says that she'll probably think there's another goal to achieve. Dr. Machin's mission is to spread education about the importance of dads, and she believes that if her next book reaches a wide audience, she'll have accomplished her goal. She wants to share the knowledge that's been stuck in academic journals, making it accessible to everyone. This is crucial because it changes the way dads perceive themselves and their role in parenting. Many people have reached out to her, saying that her work has helped them understand their experiences and feel more needed. Steven Bartlett asks Dr. Machin to summarize the unheard plight of dads, based on the messages and emails she's received. He wants to know how dads are feeling and why her work is resonating with them. If she were to speak as a representative dad, what would she say? Dr. Machin responds that dads often feel unimportant, like secondary parents or mere accessories. They're made to feel like they're not needed, especially during birth and antenatal care. However, she emphasizes that this is a misconception. Dads are essential, and their role is vital. He asks Dr. Machin if she thinks the law is biased against dads. Dr. Machin confirms that the law is indeed biased, operating on outdated assumptions that prioritize the mother's role. She explains that the family courts in Britain often favor the mother, even if it means denying the father's rights, simply because they don't understand the importance of the father's role. This is a cultural problem that reflects a broader misunderstanding of fatherhood. Steven Bartlett expresses his gratitude for Dr. Machin's work, which has opened his eyes to the importance of fatherhood. He shares a personal story about his brother, who has prioritized being a present father and has seen positive impacts on his children and himself. Dr. Machin's work has helped him challenge his own stereotypes and presumptions about the role of fathers. He believes that her work will have a significant impact on children's development outcomes and encourages her to continue sharing her knowledge. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, check out YouTube channel, and just remember, subscription is only £1 or $1 per month. Leave a comment or review. Until next time, happy listening.